Good morning. Do you like my new location? I wanted to just try something different, and I'm also doing something different with lighting. So yeah, let me know what you think. I do feel like my head is kind of at danger of being cut off. Okay, yeah, so I'm filming on my bed. It's pretty close to when I woke up. My voice might be a little bit like scratchy still. And I just wanted to film this IUD video really quickly because a lot of people asked me about updates about how it's going, and I just wanted to put this out there. I wrote down some of my the things that have been going on. So in this video, what I want to do is do an update of my symptoms, and then talk about what changed from being on the pill to being on the IUD. And I think the way my last video was structured was the process of getting the IUD and then the symptoms I was having. So if you want to find out about that stuff, go watch the first video. And if I left anything out, please put it in the comments below so I can either answer it down below, or I can put it in my next update video. I know there will be another update video because everyone says that the first 6 months of symptoms are the worst, and then it kind of changes after that. So I'm at around month 3, and so I will probably do a couple more updates and that kind of thing. I think it's really useful information, and I wish that I had seen more of these videos before I got my IUD, because typically doctors have been very discouraging of this type of IUD, and it can be really bad for some people. It hasn't been bad for me, but it can be, so don't just take my experience into account. Also, in the future, I would like to do a video with another person I know who has it, whose symptoms are totally different and worse than mine. But just for your reference for this video, I would say my symptoms are probably in the top 10% of people who react well to the IUD, from just the research that I've seen. It's going really well for me. Okay, so I'm going to get into the symptoms and an update of them, and an update of like what my period has looked like, because at the time of the first video I'd only had one period. So let's talk about my period. I've had my period 3 times. The first time I talk about in the first video, but I bled a lot. It was my normal period length of 5 days, and I had exhaustion for like 2 or 3 days, which was I had never had. It makes sense, especially because I'm losing so much blood. But that was kind of rough. My second period, I didn't really realize I was having my period. I thought it was spotting, sort of, because it was just very light. It was weird. It didn't feel like a normal period, but yeah, it was very light. And I even called my doctor and was like, is this normal? Like, I kind of skipped my period, but I'm kind of spotting, whatever. And they were like, no, it's nothing to worry about. Like, you can call back if you have this happen a few times and we'll talk about it. But yeah, I think it probably lasted like 4 or 5 days, but was just very light. A lot of like more like dead blood, not as red, but more brown, happened. And I just thought I was spotting at first. And then I was like, oh, like there's kind of more blood, but then it never really turned into like a full-fledged period. So anyway, that was my second one, and I did have some cramping. I need to start writing this down. I finally got a period tracker app, because like, why didn't I do that before? So that also will be in my next video, will be like the tracking of the periods. But I think it was like around like maybe 5 weeks from my last one, so is that the correct time? And then I just had my period like a week ago, and that one was a lot like the first one. It seemed like normal, or more normal, or what is normal now, which is heavy blood, cramping. I didn't get the fatigue, which I was happy about, and maybe it had to do with what I was doing, what I was eating, I'm not sure, but I was like working out, and that was fine. And like working out, like spin class type of stuff. Like I did have cramping during that period. I would say that, and I really should have written this down at the time, I'm learning for the future, but Um, it was, I remember being in class and being like, like this is a little rough. But not to the point where I couldn't pay attention, but I would say it's like during my period, there's kind of like a baseline of crampiness, and then sometimes it'll kind of spike for maybe like, 30 seconds or a minute. And that's the best description I can give you without having notes, and I'm just trying to remember from a week ago. But I do remember like having like some moments in class where I was like, ooh, like kind of leaning back and being like, whew, and then I would be like, okay, to write again and pay attention. So yeah, it is more painful, but I don't know, I don't really see that as like it's not that bad for me. I know that a lot of people have worse cramps on this IUD with their period, so maybe my uterus is just bigger or something. I also get little cramps throughout the month. I don't spot, which happens to a lot of people also within the first 6 months. I never really spot, but I do get cramps within within like my non-period time. And they're not bad. It's not even like really like a cramp. It's like, when you have like gas and you're kind of like uncomfortable, like it like hurts until you like fart or whatever. It's kind of like that, where it's just like a very dull, like, not like pain, but I guess a dull pain sensation, and then it kind of goes away. And I think like it's because, so like your uterus is like this kind of, and then the IUD is kind of, it's in there, but it's like probably like touching at some times. It's like touching the walls. And I think like maybe if you move, actually definitely if you move certain ways, like especially during sex, you'll feel it more. You'll be like, oh, like that was a little crampy. It is kind of hard to explain. It's not like you feel like a sharp stabbing pain, but like I guess if someone were to like punch your uterus, or like put like this kind of pressure exactly on your uterus, you'd probably feel like crampy, because there's something in there. I think that's the whole point to what I'm trying to say. But yeah, throughout the month, like at various times, I'll just feel a little tiny little like, ooh, but it's really like, that is really not that bad. It's just like, oh, there's something in there. You just kind of like are reminded every once in a while. Okay, so yeah, so I've talked about my period and some cramps, and then I want to talk about sex and using the cup. Okay, so let's talk about the cup first, because it has to do with period. So my period is a lot heavier, and so a lot of things that have been difficult for me is finding what my baseline is, because I was on the cup for so long, for almost 4 years, that I don't really remember what I was like before. But I do think the ring was making my period lighter. God, okay, wow. I think the ring, the birth control that I was on for 4 years before the IUD, I think it was making my period slightly lighter, but it always stayed 5 days. And I was using the cup, and I started using the cup while I was on this form of birth control. So I never used the cup before that, but I never really had a super heavy flow until now. And yeah, this is just one big downside to this IUD. You bleed a lot. Like, I had never ever been afraid to wear white pants during my period. Like, not underwear. Like, obviously, I feel like no one would wear white underwear on their period, but like I would never be afraid to wear skirts, or white skirts, white pants, like whatever. But now I'm just like, no, I can't do that. Like, it is heavy enough for me to be like, there's such a big chance of something happening. And I'm gonna make a whole cup video on its own, probably really soon, a menstrual cup, if I haven't been clear about that. But yeah, it has been heavy. So normally, before the IUD, I would have been able to put it in my cup, or empty it in the morning after waking up, put it in, leave it in all day if I needed to, and take it out at night, which is really nice because it's not the easiest thing to do in a public restroom, but sometimes I will have to do that now because the flow is just much heavier. I think at the peak of my period, I can fill up my cup in like 2 hours. It has happened before. And I'll talk about it in my cup video more, but like, you just have to be more careful just about the amount of blood and making sure you're changing the cup frequently enough, and you know, and also taking iron or magnesium because you're losing a lot of blood. Yeah, so period's very heavy and it's a lot of blood. I'm not worried about it at this point. I didn't get fatigue this period, which I talked about, but I thought like the fatigue was from all the blood loss, but this time around I didn't get it, but I was bleeding just as heavily. So you know, we'll see. I need to have more periods to see how it is. But yeah, I do take iron supplements mainly when I'm on my period. Okay, let's talk about sex, because there are certain positions where you can feel it. So I think like if you're in a position like, I would say like doggy or something like that, where it's just very easy to get in deep, that is sometimes painful for me. So, and it's just like when you go really, really deep that it hurts, and I think normally I don't prefer that, so it's not really a problem. That's really all I have to say about that, but that is a change. Like, it, you know, didn't used to be like painful the way it is now. Right now I think it does something to, you know, again, my theory is like your uterus is just like somehow like cramping around it, touching it, it's moving and it's touching something that's inside there. So yeah, yep, that's that on that. Okay, so next I want to talk about what differences I've had from being on the ring, and this should be pretty quick. So I already talked about like my period is heavier and crampier. I used to only cramp for like the first day, but now it's more like the first 3 or 4 days, like almost your whole period. Okay, so the first thing, and I don't think I noticed this at the time of my video, but this is big for me. The first thing that I noticed from getting off the ring and onto the IUD is I started having fewer headaches, which is a big deal for me because I was getting very frequent headaches, like almost every day. And I visited some doctors about this, and some people said, oh, it's tension headaches or they could be migraines, but it was just the type of thing where, especially after going to class, I would come back and I'd be like, oh, like I just want to lay in a dark room and you know, just like lay down and be chill. And it was kind of normal for me, and the headaches usually weren't excruciating, but I would like have them frequently, and so some of my doctors were concerned and they wanted to try some things with me, and I actually remember saying to the last doctor, I remember saying like, let me see like what happens when I get on the IUD, because I just didn't really want to like get into that stuff yet. I didn't want to be on another medication, and I swear on my life my headaches have lessened, and it's insane. And it's insane to think that I was on the ring for 4 years and I didn't like really realize that my headaches were probably caused by the ring. NuvaRing also, if that wasn't clear. Yeah, it's just like, it's just crazy. A lot of people talk about hormonal birth control affecting them in different ways, and that is the reason I started on the ring. I also was on a different form of birth control for like a day and it made me throw up like 3 times. It was awful. But you know, most people experience some side effects with the birth control they're using, and I just didn't even realize that my headaches were a side effect. I know like in retrospect it's kind of stupid, but I was on the ring for 4 years, and so I just didn't correlate the beginning of the headaches. You know, they maybe started after or something, I'm not sure, but also they were just like every day. It was every day. It was kind of like normal for me in a way, and I got used to it, which is also weird. But yeah, now I get them way less frequently. I used to not be able to drink wine. Oh my gosh, like saying this, at the time I just didn't think it was that crazy, and now that I'm saying it, I'm like, this is fucked up. Yeah, I like couldn't drink red wine, especially. I would drink white wine sometimes, but it would always make whatever headache I already had worse. Like sometimes, and I feel like everyone gets these, but like this would be kind of frequently, I would get the type of headache that like you need to go to bed in order for it to like stop. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but if you know, you know. It just is like nothing will fix it. Advil won't do anything. Like laying down in the dark, it's like nothing's gonna cure it unless you go to sleep and wake back up. Then your headache will be over. So that's basically it. That was just like wild for me. Like I didn't even realize. So I will happily take the cramping and the heavy periods over headaches every day. Okay, and then the last thing is that I have noticed that my sex drive is higher. So we're getting a little personal here. Before I was on the ring, I do remember this. Before I was on the ring, I did have a very high sex drive, and to be honest, I did attribute that to like frustration with, I was with someone and I wasn't really getting any to be anyway, so I thought that it was because I was more frustrated, and I'm sure it was amplified by that, but I think I just like had a higher drive before I started on the ring. I talked to my friend about this, and she said, well, yeah, when you're on birth control, your body kind of thinks that it's pregnant, and so that's why your sex drive goes down. And I did notice this. Like I knew that it was affecting my sex drive. I just didn't realize how much, because now I feel it like returning, especially like around my period. I feel like that happens to a lot of people. Just being so open right now. But yeah, like during and after my period, I always was feeling more, you know, frisky or whatever. But now it's like definitely way more like I used to be. And it's a good feeling though to be like, I don't know, just more myself and not like suppressed. I don't know if that's exactly how I'm feeling. It's just like I feel good. I feel like the way I'm supposed to be. So yeah, that's it. That's all I have for you. A surprising amount of things have changed from being on the NuvaRing to being on the Paragard IUD. And I think my symptoms, like I said, are in the very top percentile of people who are doing well. So definitely watch some other people. Sorry, my legs are like falling asleep. Watch some other people's experiences and videos, because mine is not the only story. But I'm having a good time, and I'm really happy with it, and I probably will end up keeping it for, 10 years. That's how long it lasts. So that's it for now. I hope this was helpful, and please let me know in the comments if you have any other questions, or if I just was unclear about something, or if I didn't cover something. Also, follow me on my Instagram. It's linked down below, but it's at DianaMarie_K. And I update like when I post new videos and that kind of thing. And yeah, subscribe. Thank you for watching.